So the brand new Aqara G3 Camera Hub just became available on Amazon this past week. It's an AI-enabled guardian that cares for your home and knows you well. I don't know, that feels a little creepy, but it has these cute little cat ears, so we're all good. Today we're going to discuss everything you need to know and then some about this feature-packed little camera hub that, well, knows you so well. Let's go. Yo, what's up guys? My name is Shane. If this is your first time here, and this channel is all about building an easy smart home using Apple's HomeKit with new videos published every Sunday morning. If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll probably know already that I am a big fan of the Aqara products. I've done a number of videos on them for years now, and they just make solid, affordable products that work very well with my HomeKit setup. Now, full disclosure, Aqara did send me the new Aqara G3 camera a while ago for free so that I could test it out, but this video is not sponsored and I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts and feedback, you know, as always. It's a 2K pan and tilt camera. It has local facial and gesture recognition features. It's a Zigbee 3.0 hub and an IR blaster. It supports HomeKit secure video, and Google with optional local storage and 24/7 recording. Oh, and it has these cute little cat ears that make it way less creepy, right? It costs just over $100, and actually if you're watching this when this video publishes, it's still on sale for those Black Friday deals that Aqara is doing. I'll put links to everything down below. You can get an additional 20% off if you pick this thing up during those Black Friday deals. So yeah, that's kind of the bird's eye view of all the features and everything, but instead of me just getting on here and reading off specs, I wanted to expand on many of these features. I want to show you them in action to kind of give you a good understanding of how everything in this camera works. Again, this camera does support the Amazon and Google assistants, but as always here on this channel today, we will be focusing on the HomeKit integration as well as the native features, you know, in the Aqara app. Now, there's a lot to cover. I will put chapters as usual down below in case you want to skip around to any certain parts. I'll try to go as fast as I can, but we do have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Out of the box, we have our user guide, the camera itself with the included cat ears accessory, a quick look, and we can see the speaker on the back, the USB-C port for power. On the bottom, we can see our HomeKit code and a 1/4-inch screw hole for mounting onto, you know, any other, you know, mounts with a 1/4-inch threaded screw, which would be sold separately. The front gives us a single button with an LED ring. We also get a USB-C cable and a 5-volt power adapter in the box. The little cat ears are like a silicone cover that can be removed, you know, if you're not a cat person. For setup, I'll plug everything in. If you don't already have the Aqara app, you will want to download that on your phone. The LED ring should be yellow and flashing, indicating that it's ready to connect. You'll tap New Accessory, then tap on the G3 Camera Hub. You'll be asked to put in your Wi-Fi information. Now, this camera does support both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Next, you'll get a QR code and you're asked to place it in front of the camera to scan. Now, this part felt a little odd to me. I wasn't really sure if I was doing it right, if it was picking up that QR code. Actually, it took me a few attempts. I kept trying, and then eventually it did work, and I got the friendly welcome aboard greeting from the device. I gave it a name, and then I had the option to go ahead and bind it to HomeKit, which I did. Scanned the HomeKit code, and it paired on the first time with HomeKit. Then I got the standard HomeKit secure video options. I can go ahead and configure this. You can, of course, change these settings at any point later if you want. You'll see this camera also exposes a security system and a motion sensor to HomeKit. And boom, that's it. We're all set up. So really easy setup. You can already see the camera working in HomeKit just like it should. Now, you know, as with any camera that is paired or works with HomeKit, when you pair this to HomeKit, you are downgrading your camera resolution to 1080p. So that's a limitation of HomeKit and is, like I said, the same for any HomeKit camera out there. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out and clarify that, because this is a 2K camera, but if you use it with HomeKit, you know, you're downgrading that to 1080p. We're going to come back around to HomeKit. I just wanted to go ahead and mention that up front. But first, let's go ahead and walk through all the features in the Aqara app. There are a few nuances that I found after using this for a little while that I just want to make sure you understand and that you're aware of, you know, before you get this. So in the main view, you can change your resolution. You can pop out the feed, mute the camera, or go full screen. Under that, you can turn on and off privacy mode. You can manually take a snapshot as well as start a recording. You can also begin two-way communication and pause the feed. Below we have these tabs along the bottom. We'll start with the control tab. You can manually pan and tilt the camera using the arrows or swiping on the video feed. To the left is the IR remote controller. Now, as mentioned, this camera does include an IR blaster. You can tap this icon to access any of your IR devices already set up, or go ahead and add a new one. It's super easy to add IR devices and then be able to access them this way. Now, keep in mind that you can access and control these IR accessories via Siri shortcuts, since the Aqara app does support shortcuts, but this will not expose your IR devices to HomeKit. Now, if we go back to the right of the control wheel is our predefined positions. There are some default ones, and you can of course add your own to quickly send the camera to any specific position. In the advanced tab is where we really start to get some cool stuff. So you have buttons that allow you to turn on human tracking and dog and cat tracking. I couldn't test out animal tracking since I don't have one here in the house, but the human tracking works quite well. I was pretty impressed, although my family definitely thought this was a little creepy, you know, having this little robot camera kind of follow you around the room. You know, although slightly creepy perhaps, I found that this actually was one of my favorite features. Now, you also have a cruise option. Cruise allows you to set predefined positions and durations for each. It will continue to repeat that cruise until you turn it off, or it does say that it'll stop when it's been going for 5 hours. So I guess there's a 5-hour max. One important thing to note is that you can only have one of these 3 modes enabled at a time right now, at least from what I can tell. So for example, you cannot have human tracking and animal tracking turned on together. And same thing with the cruise setting. It's either, you know, one or the other of these. Below that, we have face detection and gesture identification. Now, let's talk about these two for a second. So to set these up, you can tap either the More button here or the 3 dots in the upper right corner to access the More settings. They take you to the same place. Under More settings, you'll see Face Management. Here you can add a face by either taking a photo or choosing one from your photo library. Go back and tap on Alert Settings, and here you can choose to get a push notification when a face is recognized. You can begin recording and choose specific times and or detection frequency. For example, if you want only notifications when the camera recognizes your child, say maybe when he or she gets home from school between certain hours. In my opinion, what would be a little more useful here for something like that is if we could set that detection frequency a little bit higher than 1 minute, but still nice to have those options. In addition to that, you can also configure automations based on that facial recognition within automations. So this is something that we still can't do, unfortunately, with HomeKit's native facial recognition. You can do things like turn on or off other Aqara devices, play sounds, even turn on privacy mode on the camera so it stops recording. You know, you can have it go into privacy mode when it recognizes your face or your spouse's face. Maybe you want to make the hub sound off an alarm if it catches one of the kids in the pantry in the middle of the night. I don't know, there's lots of stuff you can do here if you get a little creative. Now let's check out this gesture identification. So this is also configured here in the automation settings. Tap New Automation. If, choose the G3 and then gesture detection. Here you'll see your 5 options. And what's cool is that you can automate anything you have in the Aqara app with this. So you can turn on or off your Aqara light switches, control other cameras, play sounds, control your IR devices. Basically, whatever you want within the Aqara app, you can control with these gestures. And I gotta say, I was a little surprised at how well this worked. I mean, you do have to be facing the camera. You can't be like way across the room, but you really don't have to be too close to it. It did still work when I was like several feet away from the camera. They do also say that double hand gesture is available and recommended, so that probably works even a little bit better if you do it that way. So again, automations is where you kind of configure these gestures. And again, here in the camera advanced tab, you can turn on or off gesture identification. This has to be on in order to, trigger those gesture automations. And something else important to note is that currently you cannot have gesture identification turned on with human or animal tracking or face detection. Gesture identification does appear to still work when cruise is enabled though, so that's just something to keep in mind. If you want to pick one of these up for these specific features, you kind of have to choose one or the other with a lot of these little features. So that's kind of some of the nuances I was talking about there. Unfortunately, you can't use like human tracking and gesture detection at the same time, because I would really like that. Maybe that's something that they can add or improve on in a firmware update down the road. I don't know. And lastly, we have the playback tab. So you will need an SD card inserted into the camera in order to enable the playback timeline here. You can also access your albums here. So this is where your manual screenshots and those manual recordings are stored, as well as the videos recorded from any of your automations. So to insert the SD card, you'll have to flip the camera up and put it in the little mouth of that, little sleepy face there, which is kind of funny. But once you put in the micro SD card into the camera, you'll see the timeline here in this playback section. You don't have to use an SD card, but you will get more features, including the timeline and continuous recording options. You can use an SD card up to 128 gigabytes, which is pretty nice. And again, you can enable continuous 24/7 recording or motion-based recordings, here in the section. This is a pretty nice option, I gotta admit, because not too many HomeKit cameras have the option for continuous recording. Another really cool feature, which is also found in the G2H camera that we reviewed a while back, is the ability to see any or all of your other Aqara sensors on the camera's timeline. So this can be set up in the alert settings using something called associated event labels. You can create colored labels that will show up on the timeline, on the camera's timeline, anytime there is an event, such as a door opening or water leaks, etc. You can see here on mine, I have one set up for one of my motion sensors. All these little labels here, that was when that motion sensor picked up motion. It's just another one of my standalone Aqara motion sensors. And speaking of these other Aqara sensors and accessories, any of these can be paired to the camera because it is, of course, also a Zigbee 3.0 hub. You can connect up to 128 child devices to the hub, and connecting these devices is just as easy as it is with any of the other Aqara hubs. Now, you may recall I did mention earlier that this device also exposes a security system to HomeKit. So you can set up and configure your alarm modes here in the Home tab of the Aqara app. So you determine which sensors trigger the alarm for the different modes. You can set delays and configure different settings here. Now once that's done, you can then set the alarm modes like night or away, home, here in the Home app. So in the Home app, you do have that security system, and of course you have your camera as well and a motion sensor. The camera itself does support HomeKit Secure Video, which means you get access to all of those features like facial recognition, pet, vehicle, and package detection, all within HomeKit. When you enable HomeKit Secure Video, your recordings are stored in the iCloud, and you do need one of those supported iCloud plans and able to utilize this. So I'm not going to go into a ton of details regarding HomeKit Secure Video and how that all works. If you want a full detailed explanation of what that is and how it works, check out this video right up here. It's all about HomeKit Secure Video and kind of getting started with that. Again, it's important to know that when you enable HomeKit Secure Video for this camera, it does downgrade the camera resolution to 1080p, so you won't get that 2K resolution. You do get two-way communication in the Home app using this camera, but you cannot pan and tilt the camera from within the Home app. Again, just another limitation of HomeKit right now. Now let's talk privacy for a second. A few things to discuss. First is the privacy mode. So this was briefly mentioned earlier. When you enable the privacy mode, it will stop all recording and streaming of the camera, and it will actually flip the camera lens inside the body completely, kind of hiding the lens, exposing that cute little sleepy face. And this way you know for sure that it's not recording. So you can do this in the app or manually. Now, at the time of recording, there is a little bug that when you turn on privacy mode in the app, it doesn't flip the camera. So this bug only happens when you're streaming in HomeKit or when you have HomeKit streaming turned on. If I turn off my HomeKit streams, you can see that it does actually work. Aqara said, and I quote, "We're fixing this bug. It should be solved in the next firmware update, which is expected in December. After this update, users should be able to activate the privacy mode on the Aqara Home app regardless of the setup in HomeKit." So we should be seeing that resolved very soon, maybe even already by the time you're watching this video. In addition to this, the data streams from the camera are encrypted, and the latest Wi-Fi security standard WPA3 is supported. Of course, all HomeKit recordings are end-to-end encrypted to and from your iCloud, as with all HomeKit secure video cameras. Now, supposedly just like the Aqara G2H camera, all recordings on your SD card are their local on your SD card and are not stored on any Aqara servers or anything like that. Now, my personal thoughts and experience with this camera have been quite positive. Again, I like the Aqara products already, but it's really quite amazing that they are able to pack so many features into this thing. Being a hub for all your Aqara sensors, a security system, an IR blaster, and a really nice pan and tilt camera with AI, facial recognition, human and animal tracking, gesture recognition, local 24/7 recording, and support for HomeKit secure video. I mean, come on. I can't think of another HomeKit camera that has as many features as this thing. And they surprisingly do it all quite well, I feel like. It doesn't feel overly complicated or confusing, even with all those features. I think they just have a really good product here that has so many features that can really appeal to a lot of people. And also the price, just over $100, not that bad at all considering everything you get with this. So tell me, what is your favorite thing or feature about this camera? If you have any questions that I didn't cover, feel free to drop those in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you want to check out my video on all of the Aqara hubs to help you determine which one might be the best for you, check out this video right over here. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for new HomeKit videos every Sunday morning. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.